reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management.
Thanks for tuning in again to Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis this Thursday afternoon. And I guess the weather is trying to peek through and balance itself out. So we in preparation for the full opportunities of spring coming in and summer coming in. And so what we want to redo now is we want to take 3 deep breaths so that we can prepare our minds, our bodies, and our soul to take in the leaves from this finishing school without walls. So take 3 deep cleansing breaths. And where did I get that from? Because as a person who practiced yoga, that's how they tell you to center yourself or to balance yourself. And I try to do this all the time because there's always something going on. And if you don't take time to get your life together, your thoughts together, you will be just discombobulated, as I put on Facebook. So we want to rid ourselves of that. I want to start. Sometimes I always give a quote, but this time I'm going to give a quote at the beginning of the hour and not at the end of the hour, so that we can concentrate on what we need to do for ourselves from this hour forward. The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. Let me share that one more time. This is from H. Jackson Brown Jr. The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. So whatever we do, we always want to be our best. So how we can start off being our best is if you're in traffic, take your time. You don't have to rush because there's all kind of incidents, accidents, or crashes, or whatever they want to call them these days out there. And so we need to be sensible, we want to be safe, and we want to be caring, not just for ourselves, for those who are around us. Take your time. Wear your seatbelt. Don't text and drive. Make sure your child is in the proper car seat, I think up to the age of 13. So we got plenty to do in preparation for going home each evening. We have a guest today, and we have Dr. JJ.
Hello, how's everybody today?
And she probably was in that traffic too.
I had no idea.
Oh, the same here. That's
Yes.
why I told everybody we need to take a deep breath. I ain't telling them exactly why, but that traffic is horrendous.
It is.
Yes.
It is very much so.
Okay. So we are ready to, there's so many things going on in the news today. We almost don't even know if you should listen to the news, if you should watch the television, but we got to stay healthy. We got to stay edified so that we don't get caught up in this trap, because all of it is a trap.
I agree.
Yeah, so we got to take care of ourselves first before we can take care of anybody else. So let's get right into our conversation, because she has a lot of things that she wants to share with us within this hour. So Dr. JJ, how have you been doing since the last time you were here and you introduced your book to us? Because we are readers. The Anniversary is the name of her book by Dr. JJ, and I have a copy of it, and I did read the book, and everybody knows that I am a book junkie. I am a reader, and I had a magazine that I received in the mail last week, and it says how people do not read. They listen to what somebody else is saying, and they don't read.
And that actually goes into what we're going to be talking about. Our sorority, Dr. Gwen and myself, are proud members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Alpha Omega Foundation, which is the very first AKA chapter in the whole country. We are the oldest African-American Greek-lettered sorority, and we are members of the oldest graduate chapter in the country. We're going to be doing a free presentation for the community called Eradicating Stigma. And what happens is, what Dr. Gwen just said, is how people don't read and they believe everything that they're told. And that helps to fuels stigmas. And that's what we want to try to eradicate.
Well, what are some of the stigmas that people have?
People think that people with mental illness are more dangerous than people who don't have mental illness. And actually, a person with mental illness is 10 times more likely to be a victim than a perpetrator. Perpetrators of crimes, basically are not necessarily mentally ill. But what happens is it's our media sometimes that help to fuel those stigmas, because when they run a story about a crime and the person happens to be mentally ill, then they run it a lot. And it seems like there are more people who are dangerous with mental illness, and that's actually not the case.
It seems like to me when I hear situations like that, they want to classify everybody's having some form of mental illness. When there's a crime that's going on, they always want to just put that label on them before they're even diagnosed or the case is even settled. They want to classify people right away.
And I think that sometimes, unfortunately, it goes into race, because I think that members of the African American community, if they do a crime, even if it is mental health related, we say people are thugs. But when our Caucasian counterparts do a crime, then we automatically think it's mental illness. And part of it is there are members of our community, African American community, that don't want to be labeled as mentally ill. It's a problem.
Why is that?
Well, there's a number of reasons, but I think that the biggest reason is back in the day, when we were, when our country was dealing with the aftermath of slavery, there have been lots of institutions that have hurt our community, including the mental health community. So what's happened is we've been taught, you don't go out telling your business, telling people things about what's happening in our household, because it's been used against us. And sometimes what happens is that members of the behavioral health community have viewed us with Caucasian lenses. They may not have done it on purpose, but it has harmed our community. So what we've done is taught our young people and everybody, just you don't go and talk about these things. But that's dangerous too. What we need to do is change the conversation, make sure that people understand that mental health is healthcare too. And if we're going to treat chronic disorders like asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure, we need to do what you were talking about earlier, and that is self-care. And your mind and your mental health is a part of your healthcare. And if you're not treating that, that can lead to problems too.
Well, I think people don't want to be medically or evaluated because they're afraid that not only somebody's going to label them, but a trust factor. Because as you said, and we were all taught, you don't tell what goes on in your family's business. It's a trust factor. Then we become a number.
Sometimes, but we've also been taught that we're a religious people. You go to God when you got problems. You don't go and start telling people all your business. Okay, so that's what we've been taught. But what we need to know is that there's various ways to get what you need, including spiritual healing. We need to also engage our churches. This is real. We got people that are really having serious problems. So that's why I wrote the fictional novel. And I also have recently written a workbook to go with my book that has all the information, because the last time I was here with my soror, Dr. Gwen Jarvis, she said to me, how do you know when somebody needs help?
Yes.
How do you know? So what I did was take my fictional novel and break mental health down. And that's what we're going to be doing on Saturday when we have our summit at More Counseling and Mediation, which is located at 22639 Euclid Avenue, 44117. The summit is going to begin at 10:30, or our forum, and it'll end at 2. We have a number of very, very intelligent, articulate speakers. Linda Torbert from the Adams Board, she's going to be our facilitator. And we also have Marsha Blanks from NAMI, myself, Hermias Shepard, who's another one of our sorors. She's going to do a presentation on suicide. And David Hammonds is from the Office of Professional Conduct. He's also going to do a presentation because we think it's really important in respect to how we engage with our police. We've had a number of high-profile issues that have happened in our city where we've had mentally ill people who, in the process of being hospitalized, have been, unfortunately have died. So we want to make sure that if you are having a problem, we want you to still use the police if you need to. But if you're having a problem with the police, we want you to know what to do. And that's what the Office of Professional Conduct does.
Oh, that's because I was going to ask you. I never heard of that. It's just so many different departments and so many different areas that need to be addressed. I'm glad you explained what that's about. Because
This is the office that was created due to the consent decree after the Tamir Rice case.
Okay.
And what happened is the federal government came in and looked at our city, and they found a lot of different problems with our police department. So they created this department to help monitor our police. So if there's a problem, if you have a complaint, a grievance, an issue, you can go to the Office of Professional Conduct, and they would be there to assist you and help you. We think it's important that we also have somebody from the police department so that we know that our police officers are a part of helping us deal with this issue. We're all a part of it.
Well, since this has been instituted, has there been any improvement in the police department?
I'm not sure, but I think so. But I can't tell you because I don't have any numbers or anything to be able to back up, what I'm saying. I just know that it's been a really important part of the consent decree. Because if you remember, there was a federal, the federal government came in.
Mm-hmm. I remember
because
that.
there have been a lot of disparities in respect to, how certain members of our communities have been treated. And we want people to know that if you feel that that's an issue, there is a recourse for you.
Well, since we know that this mental illness is impacting the communities, all ages and all groups and all status of life, has everyone been invited to this event?
We're trying to make sure that we get it out to the public because it's a free event. It's on a bus line, so if you don't have a vehicle, you can catch the bus. It'll drop you off right in front of More Mediation or Counseling and Mediation. We believe that it's really important. And what we're trying to do is help people, help change our conversation.
Okay, eradicating stigma, which is mental health. And we have Dr. JJ Walker here inviting us all to participate, to attend this event. I'm sorry, Dr. Winston is here, not Walker. Dr. Winston is here with us. Thanks for tuning in to Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis. And see, I need to take my 3 deep breaths again. Okay. After all this traffic I went through coming here. Thanks for tuning in to Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis. Today at 5 p.m. WERE 1490 AM on the dial. You can catch us every week, or if you download the app, you can catch us 24 hours, 7 days a week. The website is www.newstalkcleveland.com. Educate yourself, empower yourself, enlighten yourself, uplift yourself by reading a book a month. Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis encourages everyone to take that relaxing time, self-help time, comfort time to read a book a month. Reading is vital. It's uplifting, encouraging, and empowering. The National Association of Parliamentarians, the Ohio Association of Parliamentarians, Law and Order needed in order to conduct a meeting. The Ohio Association of Parliamentarians will hold its 50th anniversary and 49th annual session on Friday and Saturday, May 4th and 5th, 2018 at Cleveland State University. This opportunity is open to the public for Law and Order for your organization. For further information, email teaandhoney@drgwen@gmail.com.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Everybody. Buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Mom. Everybody, buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Buckle up. Everybody, buckle up.
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but remember, you're in control. Stand firm. Only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Well, here we are again, and this is looking like a pretty lopsided matchup, Jim.
That's right, Ron. I mean, in one corner, we've got a 175-pound guy, and in the other, a 6,000-ton heavyweight train?
Jim, this guy has no idea what he's getting himself into.
Ron, the size difference alone is staggering.
Oh, unbelievable, Jim. And this guy is acting like he doesn't have a care in the world.
What is this guy thinking, Ron?
Well, this is one of those rare moments where I actually find myself at a loss for words.
I can hardly bear to watch.
It's no contest. Every day, people tempt fate and die trespassing on railroad tracks. Railroad tracks are more dangerous than you think. See tracks, think train. For more safety tips and information, visit ctracksthinktrain.org.
Tuned in to Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis. I'd like to thank our engineer for keeping me on track, because sometimes I get off a track and they have to say, okay, Gwen, get it together here. And our special guest, Dr. Winston, my soror from Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. But I want to talk about her. She's shared with us about the eradication stigma, which we'll get back to. But I like this workbook that she have. The name of her book, which the last time she was here, is about the anniversary, which talked about mental illness and behavior and so forth. So she created a workbook, and some of the things in here, and it has definitions. It talks about lab tests. It has a lot of information in here that we need to read, and people should not be afraid to read to find out what's going on with yourself and those around you. And
exercises.
Yeah, she got exercises in here for us to do, and the whole gamut. This is just, you did this in such a short period of time too. You were just here.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
I was just here in December or November.
Whenever it was.
Yeah, and I started working on it because, my soror, Dr. Gwen Jarvis, gave me a really good idea. Having a fictional novel is important. I really wanted to get information out, and I did. And just to give everybody my background, I did work at the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board for 19 years as the client rights officer. And I have a master's degree in social work, a bachelor's degree in social work, and I am also an attorney. And I was the client rights officer for 19 years, and that's what I did. And this is really important to me.
Your journeys of education and your journeys of work is what brought you to doing this. Have you seen changes through the years, or seems like things are speeding up or expanding, or what's going on with, how do you feel about this behavioral health situation that we're going through at this time? I can't even say undertaking. It's something that we're all dealing with. Nobody is exempt these days.
That's right. And that's important that people know, even if it's not affecting you, somebody it's affecting. It affects everybody. This is a disease that has nothing to do with race or socioeconomic status, religion. It hits us all equally. So basically, for mental illness, you have a 20% probability, 1 in 5, of being mentally ill. I use the number 25% because when I talk about behavioral health, I'm also including drug and alcohol in there. you have a 1 in 4 chance of being mentally ill or have a drug and alcohol problem. That's just how it is. So it's 3 of us in here. If it was 4 of us in here, 1 of us would likely have this. And that's just how it is. Look, your engineer pointing to himself. And what happens is you ask, what have I been seeing? I've been seeing a whole world that's turning on its head with this. We have so many people that are stressed out. Stress is helping us to have issues. We got work stress. We got family stress. We got, children stress, relationship stress. What they're calling our generation is the sandwich generation. We're smushed between our responsibilities, our children, our families, our parents, trying to take care of elderly parents, and work. It's a lot.
It certainly is. Not to exclude the financial situation that's going on, because I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking about there was 4 different categories, and they said it was health, wellness, relationships, vocation, and something else. It was 4 different things, and how we are. But I like that term sandwich, because we're smushed.
Right, we are.
Like a cheese sandwich.
Right.
We are smushed between all these things.
And I think it's helping to fuel us to feel stressed out. And when people are having problems, what happens is we're going to push through. If you start to feel a certain type of way, what's wrong with me? I've been doing this forever. I need to keep pushing through. And what we need to do is stop and do what you talked about earlier. We need to do self-care. Part of that sometimes is going to get help if you need it. Unfortunately, African Americans have a higher probability of suffering with mental illness. And one reason is because by the time we do go get help sometimes, something that was a small thumbnail or, what do they call it, hangnail, you need to get your hand amputated by the time we go in.
Yeah.
Because that's how bad it's become infected. Sometimes what happens is something that could be handled, if we just deal with it when it first happens, just spirals out of control. And by the time we do go get help, we're very ill. We don't want that. We want people to feel okay with talking to the people who have been trained to do this work and can help you.
I was wondering if your surroundings and this sandwich situation that we're in can cause a person to develop mental health.
That's a very good question. I would say yes. Stress, trauma, particularly untreated trauma, can help you develop mental health. And what we need to talk about is what mental health means. Mental health really means is your ability to function and cope. There are people who are able to cope and function with some things better than other people can. That's really all it is how well you're able to function and cope. There are some situations, like, there are people who have a loss. We talked about that when I saw you last. Mm-hmm. They're able to deal with it better than some other people. There's some people, I don't mean to be, just want to be very candid. Sometimes what happens is, like, if you have somebody who's very elderly that passes away, they're 95, 98. Most of us go, they lived a really long life,
Yeah.
You're sad, but how many people get to have a relative that lives that long? But for that person who lost that relative, that might be a trauma. That might be really, really difficult for them. And one of my people that I work with told me once, yes, they lived a long time, but I had them a long time. So now that I'm losing them,
yes,
it's even harder for me. So what I can deal with might not be something you can deal with. And what we need to do is stop judging each other. We need to stop putting labels on, this and making it negative. If you have a diabetes issue, nobody goes, let's not talk about it. What we say is, we're going to reduce your sugar intake.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to help you do 1, 2, and 3, where your mind is part of your health too. And that's what we need to have people understand and have a holistic approach.
Oh, we got a lot of eradicating to do. We got a lot of work. Okay, what about these children? Because some of these children, and I know when I taught school, they were on all kind of medicine, and no telling what type of medication they are on now. It's just like even little children are suffering from mental illness. And the parents, I don't think, want to accept it. The parents might even be the problem. is there a solution to that, or is it something they can work through?
I think that it is a solution, but part of it is in my workbook. One of the things I talk about is how you go about diagnosing a behavioral health problem. The first thing we need to do is get a doctor's exam. Because you know what? Sometimes you can have people that look like they're having a mental health issue and they might actually have a physical issue. We need to do lab tests. We need to do evaluation.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we need to, if the person's having a drug and alcohol problem, then they need to do a substance abuse evaluation. But sometimes I want to be really careful with young people. We in the behavioral health community are very hesitant to just all of a sudden start giving young people medications because they have a growing, developing brain. Yes, some children do need it, but we also don't want it to be the very first thing that we do. One of the things that I'm a proponent of is helping to change people's diet, looking at this as a healthcare.
I was just going to ask you that. Yes.
Yeah. Don't eat you know what? Yeah, you're going to have problems if you eat McDonald's every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they did a study on that. If you eat fast food all the time, a lot of processed foods, that can help your mental health. That can have an impact on it. We need to have healthy foods, drink water, exercise. Take an hour every day for yourself. Meditate.
Yeah.
Do mindfulness.
You have that in your book, and I strongly believe in meditation.
Yes.
And there are some people, religious people, and I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person.
Me too.
There are some people who feel like, nope, that's just the only thing you need to do is read the Bible. No such thing as just that meditation. But you got to meditate in order to clear your head.
I agree.
And another thing that I do, and I'm not saying I'm exempt from mental illness, because this person had enough nerve to say to me, you do so many things and you're doing pretty okay. Have you ever had yourself checked out? So I didn't know how to take to that. But anyway, people can say what they want to say because they all have their opinions. That don't mean it's right. But yet and still, I have to journal. And I've been journaling for years.
Phenomenal.
And because every night I journal, and then the first thing in the morning, I really start off by saying, thank you, God, for the day. Whatever that day is going to bring me, I always say thank you, because I don't want my mind to be so clogged up with things. And like I said, I'm not saying I'm exempt from anything.
Right. No one is.
But this is what I have to do so that I can keep myself on task. And another thing that I do too is I burn a candle. Whatever project I'm working on, I have time candles in my house. So if I said I'm going to work on something for an hour, I have an hour candle. And once that candle burn out, I'm done. I'm finished. And that's what I have to do in order to keep myself in balance and in tune, along with taking my 3 deep cleansing breaths.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that is very healthy. And what's important is everybody has to find what works for them. And I think that, I like to take a nice hot bath with some bubbles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
There are ways. I like to watch television. I'm going to be honest. I love comedy. So I can be having a bad day and watch something that's funny, and it can make me happy, you know?
I don't think people know how to, even if they went for services to be administered, I don't think people know. They can always tell you what's good for somebody else. But I don't think people really know how to evaluate themselves or to reach inside themselves to see this will soothe me.
Right.
This will make me happy. I don't think people know how to do that.
I think that people find a way to make it through the day, because that's all it is making it through the day.
And that's what they say too.
Right. You just got to make it one day at a time. Sometimes I think that what we do is we overcrowd ourselves with too much. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about next week, next month, next summer. Think about today and how you going to make it through the day. That's where I'm at. But that's what works for me. One thing that worked for me is writing a fictional novel. I like to write. I like to write fiction. I feel like there's a way that you can learn a lot from that. You can take some things that have happened and inspire people. My book is provocative.
Yes.
Some people like it, some people don't. It is not, I think some people say it's a very quick read. Mm-hmm. Some people might read it and at the very beginning might find it to be traumatizing. The problem is I don't know what somebody's went through. But what I feel is if you can get to the end of the book, there are a lot of lessons in the book. I wanted to talk about a lot of different things in my fictional novel.
When I read books, because I read 3 books a month. I read a
Excellent.
fiction book, a self-help book, which takes longer than a month to read, and I also read the Bible. And when I read things, I always see what I can get out of it. When I go to the movies, it's the same thing.
Excellent.
It's to see what I can get out of it, because that's how to me, that's how I benefit. That's what I have to do for me. And I enjoy doing crafts. And I will sit and I will do some crafts, and I time myself as to what I do. And then, just like you said, do things for a day. And what I do, sometimes I complete what I can by a certain time. Then I stop. I don't do nothing else that day, and I'll take it over to the next day or the day after or next week. And that's how I have to regiment myself, because people ask me, how you do these things? Well, I have a regiment that I live by in order for me to stay. I think I'm saying. You think I'm saying?
I think you're saying. I think you're saying, girly. And you know what? And that's one thing is that what we want to talk about is, there have been so many negative labels. So one thing let's talk about that used to be in our Ohio Constitution, they used to refer to people who were mentally ill as imbeciles, idiots.
Oh, that was in the Constitution?
They just changed it.
Really?
In 2007. It was written in like 1861. And that was the language up until just recently. And actually, there's still a chapter called insane individuals, and it's very negative. Well, we want, if somebody refers to you, if you have a mental illness, as an imbecile, it's not going to make you want to run and get help. You're not going to want anybody to put that kind of label on you.
Right.
And we got to be really careful with that. It has to be something that's okay. It's okay to take a moment and do some mindfulness or some meditation so we can keep our mental health together too, just like we do our physical bodies. People say eat right. People say exercise. We don't do it just for our mind. We do it for our physical bodies and our health.
Yes. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you have exercises you do for your mental health, for your mind. And that, to me, that's healthy.
Yeah. I just wish that at one time I thought that I was crazy. This was years and years ago. I said, man, I wish I could help everybody. But it's no way in the world, because what I have learned is a lot of people don't want to be helped.
Well,
they like the situation that they're in or the cast that they're in. They enjoy it, but they can always find something to belittle someone else and not realize, I need to work on me. If you work on yourself, you can accomplish a lot, because it's a whole lot that need to be done within ourselves.
And Michael Jackson said it best. Start with the man in the mirror.
That's right.
Or the woman.
Yes.
For
yeah.
us.
Oh, yeah. I like that song. And that is so true. I often play that song when I have workshops with, because I own a sober living house for men. And that's my theme song is The Man in the Mirror. Because, let me tell you, people are afraid to look in the mirror. You can look at how they dress every day. People do not look in the mirror. They walk past the mirror. And then I was talking to somebody about a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying, I don't never look in the mirror. And I'm thinking I'm so ugly. She's a beautiful woman. And it's like, you don't even look in the mirror?
But that's because there's probably some other stuff going on. But what you just said about people living in, you said they can't see what's going on or they don't see their problem. A lot of people are comfortable because that is what their cycle has become. So that's what they're comfortable in. If you've been in chaos all the time, that's what you know. So that's what you're comfortable in. And what we have to do is change that if that is causing you a problem. There are people that, like let's just say like an emergency doctor. They're used to chaos. That's what they do. You know what I mean? They're used to having to deal with traumas and running in and running out. That's what they do.
Thanks for tuning in with Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis, and we will be back shortly because she just made an amazing conversation that if people are used to trauma, that's all they know. But I believe they can change. Thanks for tuning in with Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis, News Talk Cleveland, 1490 WEREAM, the People Station in Cleveland. The website is www.newstalkcleveland.com. Blast your opportunity by advertising on Tea and Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis. You can Facebook me at Dr. Gwen or email me at teaandhoneydrgwen@gmail.com. You're always welcome to leave me a text or call at 216-374-5147. Blast it. The Greater Abyssinia Baptist Church, located at 1161 East 105th Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44108. 2018 Women's Day Committee presents Prayer and Praise Explosion. Something's bound to happen when the women of God, P-R-A-Y, praise, repent, ask, and yield. Saturday, May 12th, 2018 at 11 o'clock in the morning. Join every woman, all women, all young ladies, all girls, free will offering to attend this Praise, Repent, and Ask celebration. For further information, contact Deaconess Davis and Patterson at area code 216-795-1842. See you there. Moms Demand Against Gun Violence. We are requesting every city, every town, every family, every church, every organization to join Moms Demand Against Gun Violence. You can find further information about Moms Demand Against Gun Violence by the website or Facebook. No one should be left behind. Please join Moms Demand Against Gun Violence.
1490 WERE Traffic.
Good evening. This traffic update brought to you by Positive Coaching Alliance. Watch out for stop-and-go traffic as you travel the 71 southbound, especially between West 140th and Snow Road. You could see some delays from earlier accidents like on the 480 eastbound after Transportation Boulevard and on the 90 westbound at West 25th Street. Use caution as you drive through those areas. It's also heavy on the 480 eastbound between Broadway and Warrensville, and keep in mind the Interbelt is heavy right after Dead Man's Curve. Questions about youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit organization, develops better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. Info at positivecoach.org. I'm Corey Moore on Cleveland's News Talk, 1490 WERE AM, the People's Station.
We are back with a little bit more discussion here about mental illness with Dr. Winston. I don't know if we call you Dr. Winston, Attorney Winston.
Yep, I'm an attorney, but I do have a Juris Doctorate, so that's why I just been smiling.
Yeah, all that works together, all of it.
Right.
Okay, now we started this conversation about living in
like if you have chaos in your life,
right,
sometimes that's all you know. And you know what happens is when you're a social worker and you do this kind of work, what we're trying to find is balance. You talked about that earlier.
Right.
There are times, where one thing can throw everything out of balance in your health, in your mental health. I had a thyroid problem. That's a very great example. It threw my whole system out of balance. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. I went to the doctor and they said, hey, your hormones are all out of balance because you got problems with your thyroid. We got to get them back in balance. And that's what happens sometimes in family systems where it becomes an imbalanced situation and it just stays that way. And that becomes normal.
But yet and still at some point, a person needs to realize that something is not right. When you see everybody else around you doing quote unquote normal things and you're not, they got to come to some realization.
But that's where we got to be careful when we use terms like normal. Normal is relative to who you are. What's normal for me might be abnormal for you. So that's where we have to be careful sometimes, and we got to be careful about the negative labels because let's give an example. I have worked with people from all socioeconomic statuses, And I've seen people who are rich that have a mental health issue. We say they're eccentric. We say people who are poor are crazy, but they got the same problem. You understand? The difference is one person got money and the other person doesn't. We accept people doing things we consider strange when they have money.
Yes. Yes.
And we never say
true.
that that's crazy. We just say, you know what? They're a little eccentric.
Well, what is it a wise thing to recommend that people that you know, to go for help? Should you take them for help? Should you just stand back and says, God, please help this person?
It depends on the situation. So let's talk about when I think you need to intervene. When you have a family member or friend or loved one who has become a danger to themselves and or others, to me, you have a duty to intervene. Let's talk about what a danger means. Let's define that. When we think danger, we think somebody's going to go into a Waffle House wearing only a green jacket. I just want to tell your audience, I didn't realize he was naked.
He was what?
He was naked. That's why they kept saying he was wearing only a green jacket. He went into the Waffle House nude with a green jacket on and an assault rifle. If you have somebody doing that, they're a danger. But that's not the only way to be a danger. I have people who do things like walk outside in the middle of winter with no socks and shoes on or no coat. That's being dangerous to yourself. There are people who won't eat. That's being a danger to themselves. If you see that, sometimes you have to intervene. We owe the world better. If you see somebody that you see is out of control and you see that they're doing things that are dangerous, that can harm themselves and or others, we're the people who know them the best. If that's my family member, I know them. The doctor don't know them. They know what you tell them.
Well, what about it? Will they get upset? They might get upset with you, thinking that you
might get upset. But when I worked at the Adams Board, unfortunately, I had to sometimes make difficult calls. I had to have people hospitalized. I've had more than one person come back and thank me because they would have ended up dead had someone not intervened. And it's hard when people are calling you bad names and using profanities towards you because they're in the hospital. But that's what they needed. That's what I felt they needed. And nobody else was doing anything. And again, I didn't know them that well. There's a word called baseline in behavioral health. And that's when you're functioning at your very best. Our job as behavioral health professionals is to get you as close to your baseline as we can. So there are people who are doing their very best and all of a sudden they fall off. We're trying to get them back to their very best. That's what we're trying to do.
Another thing, too, people are afraid that if they go to a doctor and give them some medicine, they don't.
And there's all kind of treatment besides medications.
Okay.
Medications do not cure mental illness. I will repeat that.
Oh, okay.
Medications do not cure mental illness. What they do is help you manage the symptoms of mental illness. There is no cure. Just like if you have diabetes, there's no cure for diabetes. We can help you manage the symptoms of diabetes, but there's no cure. So there are other treatments that can help you manage your symptoms, such as meditation, such as your spirituality, such as counseling, such as talk therapy, group therapy, self-help therapy. AA is a means of therapy. It's not ran by, a behavioral health professional. It's ran by the members. But there's all kind of ways to get help if that's what you need. And you know what? All of us, every last one of us, including myself, I would be not being honest if we were to say I didn't have some people in my family that might have some things going on. We all do. It's how we choose to handle it.
Well, as far as going to be diagnosed or be evaluated, whatever the word is, does insurances cover these situations?
They do. And also, if you don't have insurance, you can always go to the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board. What we need to understand is that mental illness, and that's what I put inside my self-help book. I'm going to show Dr. Gwen while we're talking about it. The DSM-5, which is the the publication that basically deals with mental health diagnosis. It has a whole bunch of different type of illnesses in it. The question is, some things are more severe than others. So at the Adams board, this is the DSM-5.
Okay.
And it breaks down every diagnosis, okay? Every classification of diagnosis.
Okay.
But there's some things at the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board, when I worked there, that we consider to be more serious. So the severe or serious mental illnesses are bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, and major depression. But if you look at this, which Dr. Gwen is right now, you have all kind of things, and you got PTSD in there. We don't necessarily consider that to be a severe mental illness. You know, you could have seen something that was traumatic. It doesn't mean that you have a severe mental illness. If you don't get help, it can develop into that. You can become severely depressed, but there are a lot of different, mental health classifications that are not considered to be severe, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't benefit from treatment if offered.
Well, could a person have she has like 2 pages worth of information here to look at. The name of it is the Anniversary, and this is a guide to behavior health and workbook with discussion prompts, and there's exercises in here for
as well as reading questions for the anniversary and discussion questions at the back.
Okay, I'm about to lose my voice here.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, with saying that, could a person have can be diagnosed with more than one of these symptoms?
Yes. And I just want to be clear that mental health diagnosis is very similar to physical health diagnosis. And let me tell you what I mean when I say that. When you go to the doctor and you tell your doctor your symptoms, they narrow down what the disease is. There's a whole bunch of diseases with the same symptoms. That's why that show House was such a good show, because that's what he would do. That was his job, is to figure out what your disease was. A lot of diseases have the same symptoms. There are people who have thyroid problems that look like they're having a mental health problem.
Really?
Yeah. And I know you got to go to commercial. When you come back, I'll talk more about that.
Well, that's interesting.
Are we not
So how would we, I need some solutions. I need some answers. What can we do?
Come to our stigma forum on April 28th at 10:30 a.m. at More Counseling and Mediation. I'm also going to be speaking at the Antioch Baptist Church on May 5th. This starts at 8:30 and ends at 12, and they're doing a really good presentation and forum. It's called Suffering in Silence, Removing the Stigma of Mental Illness. I'm going to be the moderator, and again, they have some great speakers. They have Reverend Gina Moore. They have somebody from Murtis Taylor coming, Jeff Sims. They have someone from More Counseling, Gina Goodwin. They have Reverend Michelle Denise Thomas, Dr. Gregory Hutchins Jr., and I'll be the moderator. There's been a whole lot of people that have been talking about this, and we got churches. We got people all over our community that they have mental health and drug and alcohol on their lips. What we need to do is to carry that momentum forward, to let people know it's okay. We all have problems. I get stressed out, so does everybody I know. It's how you handle it. That's the test of character. If you act like nothing's going on, that's when it gets really bad. But if we sit down and we make it possible where people feel safe, that's what stigma is. When people are saying things that are bad and they give us negative labels, we don't feel safe to go get the help we need.
Well, let me ask you a question. People ask me how I'm doing, and I always say I'm doing fine, because I feel like whatever my situation is, most of the time they can't help anyway. So I write it down and I talk to those who need to know. Some folks think that they should be an open book and they should know everything that's going on, where it'll just be a source of conversation for them and not to be become a person who would be of assistance to you. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's
I think that we all have some privacy, and it's important to have privacy. But when you have privacy to the point that it's harming you, there are people who they don't want nobody to know that they got this going on. So what do? Instead of going out to get the help they need, they go inside and they stay by themselves. That's dangerous. What people need to know is everybody's dealing with this.
Okay. Yeah, everybody. So that really goes under suffering in silence, because and I know people who are like that. And then, like you said, there are people who are just private, but we should write those things down and have a confidant, somebody that you talk to about what's going on. And we should try to direct that person to go and see what's going on. That's almost like that red flag regarding gun violence. If somebody hurting themselves, they need to address that issue. You're the one who should take that responsibility.
At church, what's important, there's a lot of churches that have ministries dedicated to this. And this Antioch Baptist Church has a ministry to help people. What we need to do is encourage people to go to it. What used to happen, I've seen this happen to a lot of people, when they're having problems, they don't go to church, they go home.
Yeah, exactly.
Church is supposed to be where you go to get spiritual salvation, but you also get a lot of other things that that should be provided to you. Maybe they'll be happy to give it to you, but if you are afraid you're going to be labeled, you may not go. We need to help each other when we're having problems. Yes. And a lot of times people will help you rather than kick you.
Yeah.
But folks think that you're going to get kicked sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think that's because a lot of people, we were raised is to keep things within the family and keep things to ourselves. And we need to know that there's times that we need to open up, because we have so much going on today that we need to talk to somebody.
Right.
Somebody. And so this is what Alpha Kappa Alpha Omega Foundation will be hosting, a Eradicating Stigma, Saturday, April 28th. Registration begins at 10:30. Forum starts at 11 o'clock. More counseling and meditation service, 22639 Euclid Avenues. And please come. And as I always say, do not go alone. And make sure you take a future leader with you. And then again, our guest, JJ Winston, author JJ Winston, attorney JJ Winston, Suffering in Silence, is going to be the guest speaker and moderator at Antioch Baptist Church on Saturday, May 5th. Registration starts at 8 o'clock. And guess what? Both of these are free. I will see you there. Thanks for tuning in to 10 Honey with Dr. Gwen Jarvis. Thank you, and thank you, and see you next week.
Participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management. WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.